All right, and we are live with another episode of the Inner Circle podcast. Feels good to be back, man. Once again, another week, another news week that's been pretty crazy, pretty hectic. A lot of stuff going on. Um, really excited tonight. We have special guests, the Ashen Luca. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. What's up, guys? I'm Luca.
Ashley Lucas rocking with us tonight, man. It's going to be a pretty cool show. We're going to touch on some things going on with Microsoft. We'll talk about a few things with Microsoft's first party, as well as touch on what happened with IGN. I definitely want to touch on that subject because that's been a real big debate. You know, obviously, if you're one side of the, I guess you could say the console spectrum, you feel like it wasn't really a big deal. And then if you're on the opposite side or the butt end of that console spectrum, you're going to feel completely differently. So, we'll talk about how they approached it, some of the things that I think I've learned from that situation. And we'll see what you guys think in the chat as we get the ball rolling. So what have you guys been playing lately?
Well, for starters, I mean, obviously outside of God of War, since that just launched and I've been having a ton of fun with that, I've still been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves. I've been running that with my crews and all that, earning lots of experience, been playing some PUBG. I'm looking forward to the next update. They've been doing a lot better ever since Fortnite got on a roll and sort of overtook them, so hopefully some new updates will be coming out there as well. And then I've been going back and forth in Wolfenstein 2, tracking down some achievements that I hadn't earned yet, some of the collectibles and stuff like that. I've pretty much given up on the idea of earning the Mein Leben achievement, though. Beating the entire game in one sitting on the highest difficulty, I have better things to do, better uses of my time. So that's me, though.
Cool. I've been playing God of War.
straight into the point, right? As soon as you say that, everybody knows what that means, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Me personally, I actually tried to play Witcher today. And what I've learned about Witcher is that Witcher is not a game you stream. that is not a game you stream. So I learned my lesson in that aspect. Won't be doing that anymore. So I'm definitely going to be figuring out what else I'm going to be streaming besides Witcher. But so far, it's been pretty cool, man. It's graphically it's impressive on the X without question. I like the update they gave it. But I definitely want to dive into it. I have no idea who these characters are, what they're referencing to, because I didn't play the first one, and I didn't like the second one. I don't know what it was about the second one, now that I think about it, but I don't like it. And I have it in my backlog, with BC, but I don't like it for some reason. So I'm trying to give this one a chance to see if I like this one a little bit better. And I'll tell you this right off the bat, after playing Tomb Raider and Assassin's Creed, and I'm not trying to compare the two games, but the movement of Witcher is so stiff. It is so stiff the way you move in that game. And that could just be because I'm used to doing all this parkour stuff. You know what I'm saying? With Laura and I forget his name from Assassin's Creed and stuff like that.
Bayek?
Yes, Bayek. Thank you. So I guess I got used to that movement and the fluidity of it and being able to move, dodge, roll, hop over stuff. And there's some aspects to it in Witcher, but it's just not as fluid. And I realized as I started playing the game. But hopefully I'll adjust and I'll get used to it. So let's go ahead. Let's get the show started. Got a lot to talk about. And I want to thank everybody for stopping out. Hopefully we'll get the show done within the hour and be able to do a Q&A with some of the guys in chat. So here we go. Welcome to the Inner Circle podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox. I'm your host, KRSKLL. Unfortunately, Anchorman V can't make it tonight, and B Money 101, today is his birthday. So big happy birthday shout out to my boy B Money 101. Of course, we have with us Direwolf 484.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And our special guest, the Ashen Luca.
Hey, what's up?
Before we get the show started, we lost a Xbox brother this week. I want to take a moment of silence very quickly. He was a bright spot for us on Twitter. He was in the military. He sustained a spinal injury when he was in the service and has been battling with health problems for a very long time. And unfortunately, this past week, he lost it. If you guys don't know who that is the Xbox addict. Really cool guy, man, down to earth, always showing off all of his stuff, all of his huge collection of Xbox things, and he'll be sorely missed by the Xbox community. So I just want to take a moment of silence for Addict. All right, so let's begin. Microsoft seems to have gone out and recruited, if they haven't had him already, Mr. Daryl Gallagher, who used to be the head of Crystal Dynamics and worked on both Tomb Raider 1 and Tomb Raider 2, the reboots, obviously, Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider, just to be more clear. And, I was impressed with both games. I really like both games. I really can't complain about either one. I know a lot of people compare them to on the Uncharted series and what they took from Uncharted, but obviously we all know Tomb Raider is the originator, and I can say that Uncharted improved upon what they started, and Tomb Raider took from what they originally had plus what Uncharted had and tried to create their own beast. And the second one to me was the most impressive. I really love the second game the most. But overall, bringing him in sort of caught me off guard because, we're constantly talking about what Microsoft needs. I know I've been talking about this for years at this point, about how Microsoft needs to allow 343, Turn 10, and the Coalition to make more games. And most people are like, why? Most Xbox fans are like, why? No, let them continue to work on the games that they're working on to perfect them, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, because Microsoft don't plan to buy new studios. Like, they don't plan to open new studios. They don't plan to buy new studios. So if you're not going to do that, why not give, the studios that you have that are talented as they are, the reins or the ability to make new games? And obviously, I'm sure if they haven't heard my voice, they eventually are starting to hear the voice of the crowd. So Daryl Gallagher's been brought in. And, it's funny because we've been hearing a lot of rumors. We've heard rumors about Perfect Dark. You hear rumors about this. I think you just wrote an article on it, or was it Nick that wrote an article on the, what is it called? Deaf something, Dark something, the game that they got from that script, Sam?
Dark Tide? No, that was a rumor that came out a little while ago. That was actually Christian who wrote that up on our team. That came out last fall. Basically, it was just that there was a horror script that the author was claiming could be turned into an Xbox game at some point. We never really got any more info after that.
Right, but do you remember the name of that?
The script, it was called Dark Tide.
Dark Tide, that's what it was. Dark Tide, right? So, we've heard about Dark Tide, and apparently Dark Tide is supposed to be some sort of horror novel, short story. And Microsoft, I will tell you this right now, I'm not a fan of horror games. Right now, I do not want them to make this game as the main game that they are coming out with, that they're going to produce as like the next new IP. However, I will say that I think it's good if they did do that and created a new IP in the horror space, because of the simple fact that it is a sorely unsaturated genre at this point. There's not a lot of good horror games, and the most horror games nowadays are in the indie space. Some of the big ones, like the Resident Evils and the Evil Withins, like, you don't have Silent Hill anymore. You don't have those games like you used to back in the day on 360, where you would have all of these horror titles. So there's so few far in between, and I think that would be a good title for Microsoft to have if they were able to bring that. But with his expertise in running a studio, especially Crystal Dynamics, I don't see him being a person that will lead a team for that particular game. So with that being said, I want to ask you guys, if Daryl comes in and he does head up a new studio, which is what we believe he's coming to do as an executive, as a new executive in the Microsoft studios, Microsoft first party studios, what do you think he will be lined up to make? Do you think it's a new IP, or do you think he'll take over the reins of what is suspected to be Perfect Dark?
Luca, would you
personally, personally, I think it might be a new IP, especially since he came from Crystal Dynamics, which, Tomb Raider was an action game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, action adventure.
Action adventure. So, Xbox is sorely lacking a first party action adventure title. So I definitely think he could help build that up, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd co-sign that. It makes sense when you look at his pedigree, the types of things he's done. He worked on Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider, and he also had an input on things like Hitman, which has been very successful. People love that. People like the way that rolled out episodically. He had a hand in some other things that went on there at Square Enix, like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. He had some insight on that as well. So, that's a long way of saying when you look at his portfolio, when you look at his experience, he was also at Rockstar and Activision for a time. It makes sense for him to be working on something in that genre. He's the type of guy you want leading a new studio. I think we can all agree that there's a new studio involved here, whether it's an acquisition or built internally.
I agree. I don't know if it's an acquisition. I would hope that if it was, we would have known about it and broke that scoop. But you never know, man. Microsoft might be holding back. You just don't know if these guys are actually holding back and announcing a studio. So my thing with that is I'm obviously excited because of the simple fact that with Microsoft, we're all looking for that next big title. Generation 1, we had Halo. Generation 2, for them anyway, we had Gears of War. Now we moved on to the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, and everybody is searching for that next big, mega exclusive title. I don't know if they'll produce it this generation. What I do know, what I do think is that bring him in was a big deal. It was a big deal for people who are expecting something new from them, something fresh from him. You can tell by exactly what Sam just said, his pedigree and his history kind of tells you what he's worked on, the projects he's been in, and the experience that he has. It leads you to believe that, it's going to be a new adventure title, whatever it is. I'm hoping that it has nothing to do with Fable. Like, I hope it's not like this new studio that's working on an old franchise. Though Perfect Dark, in my opinion, would be great if they went the route of, let's say, like a how I envision the next Perfect Dark. Most people don't like this idea, but I would want it to be third person, and I would like it to be almost like Deus Ex, just a little cyberpunk-ish. And then at the same time, a little Tomb Raider, where you have a lot of exploration, platforming, stuff like that. But a lot of it is just kind of taking different paths, dealing with espionage, stealth abilities. Then you have aliens, you have different technologies based on that world. Most people want it to stay first person. My answer to that would be if they went the route of like how Metal Gear Solid 2 was, when you kind of had the hybrid of first person when you're aiming down sights, and then you were third person when you were doing all your action movements and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. It definitely is something that Microsoft needs. They definitely need a new studio without question. I never liked the idea of them relying on third party. I can't stress this enough. Even when I found out about Scalebound and I was excited about it, and some of the other studios, you become reliant on that third party person. And if that person decides, like, I don't want to do this anymore with Microsoft, like especially with Hideki from Platinum, I was sitting here like, bro, the first time he gets pissed off at Microsoft and is like, F this game, like F this, I don't want to deal with Microsoft no more, we will never see another Scalebound made again. Microsoft can own it, but you'll just never get the same, you just won't get the same feel as the original creator. So for me, I was like, man, that kind of sucks. If you're not able to secure that studio plus the game, or if you're not building studios for that game. It's like Remedy, same thing. Microsoft owns Quantum Break, they own Scalebound, they what else do they own? They own the IPs for Ori and the Blind Forest, but they don't own none of the studios. And if those studios decided they don't want to work on those projects no more, then you either got to hire a third party to work on the projects that they have to then learn about, or you have to open up a studio and try to poach people like they did with Rod from Epic. So I don't know if that's a good thing, but I do know bringing Daryl in was the smart move, and it was a good move for Microsoft. Now, if they do open up this studio, do you expect them to continue what they've been doing with the other three studios, or do you think this new studio would have the freedom of Rare to create what they want?
I'd like to say they have the freedom. It depends on what they're doing, right? It depends on what they're doing. If they're making a new IP, then they absolutely have that freedom. to do whatever they want. If they're working on bringing back an older IP, something like Perfect Dark, for example, which would make sense given his talents, it might be a little more difficult to say, but I'd still be more inclined to believe that they have more freedom than a studio like 343 or Turn 10. Definitely. They simply due to the nature of the type of person you're bringing on. If you give that man his own team, you want them to get their creative juices flowing, so to speak. You want them to just go nuts on whatever it is they're doing.
Right. Luca, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. As for whether or not they would have the freedom to do what they want, I don't know, man. I think we have to wait and see. The last thing I'd want Xbox to do is create another studio and then only have them work on one game, just like they've been doing for 343 and for the Coalition. Clearly, that's not working for them. Clearly. And I'm with you, Tick. I think that they definitely need to stop outsourcing for these titles, because there's just too many things that could go wrong. Just look at Crackdown 3. Just look at like you were saying about Scalebound. What's his name? Hideki Kamiya? That's him.
Hideki Kamiya.
Yeah, he's a bit of a character on Twitter. I'm just like,
he is.
Why would they? I know that Platinum Games, they're kind of hit and miss with their titles, but I definitely, with someone with a reputation like that, definitely would not hire them on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, given the fact that they've shut down countless studios, I don't know, man. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping that they have some surprises for us at E3. You know, that's one thing. But I would like to say that I posed a question for my panel today, and because I had a couple of guys saying that, the generation's done, which it is. Xbox lost, which they did. And I'm like, okay, cool. The generation's over, Xbox lost. So should we stop expecting anything from them until next gen?
Right.
So, that's my stance on it. If the generation's over, if they lost already, then just let them build,
Yeah, and if we're being perfectly honest, not to cut you off, Cal, but just to say really quickly, I think that's likely what's going on. If we're being really honest here, I think they're likely building for next gen. Any new studio, anything they're working on is going to be next gen. Playground Games and the practically confirmed rumors of bringing back Fable, but not really as a new IP, kind of, sort of, that's next gen. Perfect Dark, that's next gen. And that's not a problem per se, but it's a thing of, how do I put this? They're going to have to show fans what it is they're looking forward to. Does that make any sense? Absolutely. It's not a problem, but they just have to put this out there and say, okay, hang with us. We've got all this great stuff coming. But they don't have an option of not putting it out there. They absolutely have to show their hand.
I think Microsoft, last week, I said the same thing, or the week before, where we had the episode, and I said that Microsoft needs to show everything. They got to show everything at this E3, man, because what you've done now is put yourself in a position where you took half the fan base from the PS3. Okay, just think about your most successful console. Even though it might have been a disaster hardware-wise, you took half of that install base from the PS2 and left PS3 with half. And the ball was in your court, like literally. I mean, everybody thought the ball was in your court at that point. And you come out and you kind of flop. You flop out of the gate. Sony comes out strong. And, it's ironic because of the situation that Microsoft put themselves in the beginning of the generation. And they're trying to recruit via mid-generation. And now no one cares because we're almost at the end of the generation. And people are looking forward to the PS5, or people are talking about now the next Xbox. And I think what Microsoft has to do is, and again, I don't think they're going to have another generation. I just think they're just going to have iterative consoles where they're just constantly pumping out consoles and, every 5-6 years. And those games just continue on each platform until the Xbox One S can no longer handle the games. And this is based on, again, this is just based on a conversation interview that I had with Albert Pinello back in the day. If you guys haven't heard that, you can check it out. It's on the channel. Xbox, I think it was 4K 60 Uncompromised. I think that was the title. It's ironic now when you think about it. But we had that conversation, and that's what they brought up. You know, one of the things he brought up was that they didn't look at generations the way we are traditionally known to do them, where, okay, we're done with a generation and you completely start over on that generation and don't release games on older hardware, or games that's already in development release for both, but then the next game doesn't release for that hardware. I think what Microsoft was trying to do is just do exactly that, release it on every set of hardware, and you just always have two consoles on the market, one that's really powerful and one that's sort of, you know, for the consumer. And that's what the X will be by the time the next platform comes out. The next X will probably be like 250 or 300, and the next Xbox, I mean, the Xbox One X would be 250, 300, and the next Xbox would be like $500, which I think, again, I don't think they'll drop the price on the next platform. So building for next generation, yes, I think they have to do that now, obviously. At the same time, you got to capture some of the people that you've already lost, because people are already saying, if I have to choose between an Xbox or a PlayStation come next generation, especially the people that's not hardcore Xbox guys, they're like, I'm going to go with PlayStation because of what they delivered this generation. Forget about what happened in the beginning of the generation. You're only as good as your last. So people are looking at what they did at the end of the generation, and they're going to hop on that. If Microsoft doesn't figure out a way to produce something special or something just as good at the end of the generation, they put themselves in a bad position when the next generation starts. And it's going to be another uphill battle. They have a clean slate. But again, they've built the foundation. They've built the hardware. Just make the studios, man, make the games, get that stuff going. And I think they'll be on point when the next generation starts.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of how things look, I mean, obviously, meme or not, we have to wait till E3. They literally said that in terms of finding out what's going on with Daryl Gallagher and whatever they've got him doing. But I think we can all agree this is a good first step.
Correct.
It's a good step in a good direction.
Agreed. All right. So listen, IGN came out recently, and apparently they decided, or somebody from the editorial team, according to Ryan McCaffrey, the host of the #1 syndicated podcast for Xbox, Podcast Unlocked, went on, and somebody from the editorial team at IGN posted a picture of Kratos representing PlayStation 4 on one side and a blank space representing the Xbox on the other side. And boy, did that set off a bunch of laughs and a bunch of fire at the same time. It's kind of weird because I kind of look at it from both sides. It's like you look at it as a joke in one aspect, like, yeah, that's kind of funny. They don't have God of War and these guys are enjoying it. And then on the other side, as an Xbox fan, it's kind of like, wow, that's kind of messed up. Not so much that we don't have God of War. I mean, I don't really care about that aspect of it, but I mean, was that really necessary? But then from a media standpoint, I kind of look at it like, man, that just, where's the ethics in that? You know, you already have a reputation for being biased. That doesn't help it at all. So what do you guys think, man? Do you think IGN do you think they're biased? I mean, listen, we've been talking about media bias forever this generation. I mean, from both sides. You got PlayStation guys saying this website represents Xbox only, and Xbox guys saying this represents PlayStation only. What do you guys think about IGN in this fiasco that recently came out?
Well, I definitely thought it was unprofessional, but I wasn't surprised. Like, they've been taking shots like this all gen, a bunch of journalists, and they take shots because they never face any repercussions about it. But personally, I think it was very unprofessional, and sure, it was funny, but it's just kind of like, everyone's like, well, it's just a joke, calm down, it's not a big deal. It's like, okay, I get that. I understand that it's a joke, and it's fine that it's a joke. It's just the media outlets, they're supposed to be neutral. Mm-hmm. And if you make posts like that, it kind of what's the word, leads credence to the idea that there is a media bias, and it gives people a platform to stand on. Like, look, there is media bias. Look at what IGN did. Mm-hmm. So honestly, they messed up, and Ryan McCaffrey came out and was like, oh fuck, we messed up, my bad. And yeah, from a journalistic integrity standpoint, they shouldn't have done it. But overall, to me, it's not really a big deal, but it's just a big deal in the sense that IGN is a joke, and I've always thought of them as a joke. So,
Yeah, I mean, look, it was unprofessional. That's no ifs, no ands, nor buts. A media outlet should be neutral. A media outlet is not supposed to have bias. It wasn't a member of the editorial team. It was just a member of the social media team, probably some intern or, recent hire or something like that. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And I know that seems ridiculous, so let me explain here. People don't need to make this out into more than it was. It was just a single post, and that's all there is to it. But at the same time, I'll borrow a page from Kratos or a line from Kratos since I've been playing so much God of War. I don't need you to be sorry, IGN. I just need you to be better. The reality of the matter is doing something like that when you have millions of followers, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And I'd have said that if it was, Sea of Thieves or State of Decay 2, and the meme was the other way around. I would have said that. You don't do something like that. But at the same time, it happened. They apologized. Let's move on. That's what I say about it.
Yeah, it's funny because I read a lot of comments. Man, you see a lot of people on the PS side saying, it's being bought a portion. What are you apologizing for? It's just a joke. No one could take a joke and stuff like that. And then of course you're gonna have the Xbox guys that say, well, if it happened to you, if it was like, oh, Halo looks amazing, and then they put a blank screen on the PlayStation side, PlayStation fans are going to react some type of way, or somebody is going to say something smart or whatever. But I think the issue that you have here is exactly like you guys said initially, where there's an ethics situation in this regard. As someone, as we over at Tick, we try to run our own little news organization, and we try to have some type of ethics where we're not biased towards one side or the other, so that way we can try to appeal to everyone. And even though it's a person from the social media side of that team, what it does is it kind of reinforces exactly like you guys were saying. It sort of reinforces what a lot of Xbox fans feel about IGN, that they are PlayStation biased and that they only support or only give great reviews to the PlayStation content and not so much to the Xbox content. And I said this a long time ago. I said, I think one of the reasons why you wind up getting such favorable news from PlayStation is because a good portion of us grew up with PlayStation. Like a lot of that stuff, like honestly, if you think about it, PlayStation came out when I was like, my early mid-teens? I was probably like 16 when PlayStation came out at the time. So it was like 1996. I was 15. I was like 15 when it came out. So I grew up with PlayStation, PS1, PS2, then you had the PS3 and so on and so forth. By the time OG Xbox came out, I was already embedded into PlayStation. Like I was a super PlayStation 2 fanboy. I say this all the time. And I was not thinking about Xbox until I finally gave it an opportunity and gave it a chance. And then I liked it. And then after seeing what 360 did and it coming out a year earlier than the PS3, that hooked me. And then once PS3 came out and didn't have the games that I was looking for, I stayed with 360 and I've been with Xbox ever since. So it's one of those things where it's like a lot of the guys that's doing the media aspect grew up on PlayStation. So they favor that brand. The brand is also more appealing worldwide because they're not tied to a major company like Microsoft that a lot of people feel is already shady, just as a company that's not even dealing with Xbox, just as a company from whatever their history was or their past practices that has happened around the world. So you've already got this thing that's going against you. You have people who have all these news sites that may feel one way or the other, but prefer that platform and they may favor that platform. So seeing something like that from a social aspect then turns around and reinforces the notion that, yeah, you were right the whole time that IGN is biased. But then you also have to consider that it was just a guy that was on social media. There's no difference than somebody on our social media team putting something out about how Xbox is the greatest thing since sliced bread and it crushes all consoles. And everybody's coming to me like, yo, like, I thought you guys weren't like this. And I'm like, it's not reflective of the site. It's reflective of this one individual. And we got rid of this individual, yada, yada, yada. So I do get that. But you got to be careful, especially when you're a big company like IGN. IGN is not, I won't say IGN, but the company that owns IGN and the backing of them, they really need to be careful because you could really turn an entire, at least social, in the social aspect, an entire fan base against you if they think that you're biased. And that's not good at all, So I don't know, man. Like you guys said, they got to do better. Obviously, we'll see what happens as we go towards the future. I like the fact that Ryan hopped on it early and nipped it in the butt and went ahead and got rid of it. I don't know what happened to the guy. I hope he didn't lose his job over it, but I do hope he was at least disciplined in a way where he understands that, social media is huge, man. Word of mouth is huge nowadays, and social media plays a huge role in that. And that's why nowadays the media is not even as relevant as it used to be, but there's so many people that still rely on certain websites, and that's why it's still impactful. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Nope.
Nope.
All right.
Cool. Don't think anything else needs to be said.
So, listen, Microsoft has went on and gone ahead and put up I guess you could say they are recruiting for a new, I believe it is a hardware engineer, the electrical engineer, a new electrical engineer that is familiar with DRAM for DDR3, GDDR5, I believe it was, and GDDR6 and future DRAM. And if listen, I know a lot of people don't believe this. I know they don't believe this. But Microsoft was working on the Xbox One X before we even knew about the PlayStation, the PlayStation Pro, the PS4 Pro, or Neo back in the day. They were working on another Xbox for a pretty long time, and now they're working on their next Xbox. So I guess they got their plans in place on what they're going to build, and we're suspecting that they're going to go with GDDR6 RAM in their next platform. And I think that's a big deal because one of the weaknesses of these mid-gen consoles is the CPU. And the CPU being so weak is really what's holding us back. So I think moving forward with a better, stronger CPU, and hopefully as we go into the next gen of CPUs, they're able to grab maybe the lowest tier to put into the next platform. But I think they're going to continue to make these powerhouse consoles. I really do. What would you guys like to see in the next Xbox? And what would you like it to be called more than anything? Because they're terrible with names.
Yeah, I really just wanted to do 60. I want both of these next gen consoles to do 60 steadily. That's literally all I want.
I'll co-sign that. Like, honestly, and I know that there will be RAM improvements, there will be GPU improvements, but for the love of all that's good and holy, Microsoft and Sony, move on and upgrade your CPUs. Seriously, that is, pour most of the money into that more than anything else, because that's what's holding frame rates back right now. That's why a lot of titles struggle to reach 60 frames per second. That's the issue there. So please upgrade the CPUs. Please get it to 60. Buff the power, buff the RAM. It's good to see that they're hiring. But honestly, I think people need to sort of temper their expectations in terms of the next PS4 and the next Xbox. I'm not of the opinion that they're coming next year. I believe next gen is 2020. Whatever next gen ends up meaning for Microsoft, because I have different opinions about the whole beyond generations thing, but we could get into that at a later time because that's a whole nother discussion. But regardless, I think that's 2020. I don't think we're going to see new consoles in 2019. I think people need to bunker down, wait a little bit longer.
I agree. Absolutely agree. I don't think we'll get consoles in 2019. I think it'll be 2020 as well. I think obviously Microsoft needs to get that 60 FPS 4K native going. I think that's the next step for both these platforms, especially with the Pro and the X kind of doing a half step towards that and giving you dynamic 4K or native in some games, but not all. I think the next step is to go 4K 60. But I also think what they need to do is whatever the CPU does, they really need to make a huge improvement on physics and how many objects you could put on screen at one time. After playing Assassin's Creed, what is it called? Assassin's Creed Egypt? It's not Egypt. Origins. Thank you. Origins, bro. I'm getting like Alzheimer's out here. I swear.
I mean, it's okay. That game left barely an impression on me as well.
No. I like the game though. I know. I like the game though. I don't think it was that bad. It was pretty good. But Assassin's Creed Origins, when you watch that game from above, like if you're high up and you're like I'm in Memphis, which I love Memphis. It's like one of the best cities in that game. And I'm high above and you look down and you just see, You see the people walking, alligators swimming, birds flying, hippos in another area. The cloud is moving, the sun is moving, the time of day is shifting. And it's like so lively. Like not even in Watch Dogs, not even like Grand Theft Auto do you see so much happening on screen. Obviously, because they replaced a lot of the people with cars and stuff like that. And there's some people in some pockets, but when you're in that game and you look at everything that's happening at the same time, it's so impressive and it feels so alive. I think that's what I loved about that game the most was that it felt alive. Like I was really in that world around real people. So the next, I think having a powerful CPU allows you to achieve that in every game where it's just not background things that you're seeing. You can actually walk up to these people and move them out the way or walk around them, and they don't have an impact on your console. I think that's huge because you could do so much with that, especially if you have games that may be linear, where you're kind of going down a certain path, but you can make the rest of the world seem so full. It doesn't seem so empty. It doesn't seem like you're just going down this one path, but you're really in a full world. So if they're able to achieve that with the next CPU that they put in these consoles and customize the GPUs like they've been doing, hopefully they'll be able to reach that next plateau of kind of taking consoles to the next step. Because I don't really honestly think that the Xbox One and the PS4 were leaps and bounds graphically over the 360 and the PS3. I think they are now because of the time spent on the consoles as the generation has gone on. Developers have gotten better and better with the hardware and have been able to push the hardware further and further. You look at a game like God of War, you look at Uncharted, you look at games like Quantum Break, games like even Halo can be gorgeous at times. You can see where the developers are really pushing those games forward over time. As we get to the next generation, I want to be able to see a leap from what we're doing now into the next console. And I'm really hoping that if they don't do it graphically, then they do it via CPU side, especially since a lot of these games are still CPU based. A lot of these games are still built, through the CPU. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. It's not that far away. 2 years go by fast. Hopefully we're all around to see it happen. But when the next consoles come out, man, I'm definitely going to be leaning towards the Xbox as always. I mean, that's my platform of choice just because of the way they designed the console. I rock most of my favorite games are third party anyway. But I do like a lot of their exclusives over Sony's exclusives and stuff like that. That's just my personal taste. Nothing
You
against
like Xbox exclusives over PlayStations?
I do. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I've done this a lot. I've never liked, at least based on what I played from the PS3 to the 360 era, I didn't like Killzone over Halo. Uncharted was really good, but they also had Fable, which I really enjoyed, especially Fable 2. Fable 2 at the time on the 360 when it had came out was really, really awesome.
So you're a fan of their previous exclusives?
Well, I'm also what they have out now. I'm a fan of as well. I loved Rise, even though Rise didn't do well. What I loved about Rise the most was the simple fact of the story. I think the story is one of the most underrated things in that game, and the fact that you have a twist at the end. If you haven't seen Rise, I don't want to spoil it for people, but there's a twist at the end where it really kind of gives you the idea that franchise could have gone on to something else. You could have continued that franchise with a new protagonist at a new era with a new story and still had this overlaying power that's kind of manipulating and controlling everything. And it's so disappointing that franchise didn't move forward. But I loved Halo. Again, I still liked Halo over Killzone. I still like Gears of War. Though, again, I loved Uncharted. I thought Uncharted was great. I'm not a fan of Infamous. I've never liked Infamous. I played Infamous 1 on the PS3 and found it super repetitive. I didn't like the second one, and I didn't like the one they put out this time around as well. I'll be honest with you. I think the only games I like from Sony's first party is Uncharted and God of War. That was it. Honestly, Gran Turismo. I grew out of Gran Turismo. And I didn't like Forza either. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like Forza, but I do like Forza Horizon. And it's only on the Xbox and obviously on PC, but I'm not a PC gamer. So yeah, it's a lot of games that's on that platform that I prefer over the PlayStation, and that's why I kind of rock with
what new games do you like from Xbox?
I mean, right now, first party wise, I've been playing Sea of Thieves, though they do have to include more content. I don't think that's a bad game. I've been talking about that game for a long time. I think it's actually a really well built game. I just think they need more variety and content and more ways to develop yourself and your ship and your crew. They definitely need to add some type of story elements to the lore and not just let it be sort of like a sandbox where you kind of create your own thing. But Sea of Thieves is an amazing game. It really is. I mean, it really is basically, like Sam said at one time, a pirate simulator. Love Ori and the Blind Forest. I think it's one of the best platformers I played this generation, without question. Cuphead was very unique. Loved that game as well. I loved Halo, even though a lot of people didn't like it. I like the Osiris team. Most people don't like the Osiris team, but I like the Osiris team. I did. Gears of War 4, I will tell you this. Gears of War 4, I think, what I didn't like what they did with Gears of War 4 was that the story was fine. It was half decent. The characters were okay. Where they started to kill me was when you had to do the do the horde stuff with the carrying thing every 2 levels or every 3 levels. You had to carry that damn tank, that damn trunk, drop it, and then set up because you had a bunch of wave of enemies coming at you. Bro, that killed the pace of the game.
It's in there 3 times. What are you talking about? Every 2 levels?
3 times is 3 times too much.
There's a big difference between every 2 to 3 levels and 3 times in the entire game.
It's 3 times too much. That really, I'm not gonna lie, it ruined the game for me because if you're in the flow of something, because Gears is such a intense game sometimes, and all of a sudden you have to stop, set up, shoot, kill, return, stop, set up, bro. After a while, you're like, bro, what is this? Like, if I want to play multiplayer, I would have hopped on multiplayer. Quantum Break, I didn't finish. I'm like halfway done with that game, but it's not a bad game. I just think that they had some missteps with that. Sunset Overdrive, I didn't like Sunset Overdrive. Mad people love Sunset Overdrive.
I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing.
Everybody loves Sunset Overdrive. I don't like Sunset Overdrive because I hate the movement. It's not that Sunset Overdrive is a bad game. I think it's very creative and I think it's very unique and should get more praise, but I don't like grinding and shooting and jumping all the time. I just want to sit there and shoot or take cover and shoot or move and strafe and shoot. I don't want to have to keep moving because if I stand still, I'm going to get swarmed and killed. That's super annoying. Constantly grinding on rails, constantly grinding on telephone poles. Like, come on, bro. Like, after a while, I was getting nauseous. Like, this is too much. I can't. So I never finished that game. And then some of their third-party exclusives, Dead Rising 3 was good. I didn't pick up 4. Rise was good. Even though I didn't rate well because it was repetitive, but overall I liked the story and the concept. I thought it could have been better. Just trying to think off the top of my head. And then they had a lot of preview games that I enjoyed as well that came over. Ark, Conan, The Lone Dark, a lot of titles that I think a lot of people ignore, especially with the preview program, though it may seem like it's broken in some aspects because it's most games that are in alpha. But as you watch these games grow and develop, you really feel a part of those games because you're actually playing them and helping them build, or people are helping them build, and the games start to get better and better and you get further and further in the game. So, I mean, that's why I really like the platform. I like what they've been delivering in that regard. I think what keeps me on that platform is the hardware and the way they built it. You know what I'm saying? So, and Xbox Live as well, which I think is better than PSN. That's just my personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's just my personal opinion, but I just think Live is better than PSN. I just feel like the infrastructure is just it's just well built. It's just way more well built than what they're working on over there at PSN. So,
well, you know what? At the end of the day, it's just your opinion and whatever games you prefer. You prefer them. I don't have any issue with that. I don't see why anyone should, because honestly, who cares? I was just curious.
No one should have any issue with what anyone is playing at the end of the day because we're all gamers.
Yeah,
Of course,
absolutely.
that's much easier said than done in the Twitterverse. I get that, but
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what it comes down to. A lot of people are not going to understand why you prefer something or why you like something, and they're just think you're lying or think you're, shilling for this platform, and you're not. Like, if you really like somebody, or you really somebody, if you really like something, if you really like something, then you prefer that, and you're going to rock with that. You're not going to just flip the script because you're going to go with the crowd. That's not how things work. So, um, it is what it is, man. You can't make everybody like what you like, but you can give your preferences and why you like them. And I don't think it's a bias. I just think that, like Lucas said, man, it's your own opinion. It's objective. It's what you prefer, and nobody should be mad at what you prefer. That's why I was saying before on Twitter, like, dude, if someone likes something, why hop in their chat and destroy them and bring them down because they're excited about what they like? If those guys like Sea of Thieves, why hop in a chat that you're not even included in just because you see it on your timeline? Somebody retweeted it from your friends and hop in to say that game is trash, Xbox is garbage. And then you start
I agree with that. I don't like when people hop into my conversation to offer their different opinions because,
right,
quite honest, unless I ask for it, I don't care about anyone's opinion. People should just make their own post and then go from that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was saying before, but obviously that got blown out of proportion. Like, because I'm an Xbox, because I like Xbox, it got blown out of proportion. Now I'm like, oh, Xbox guys can't have a voice. Like, what? I never said that. What are you talking about? But it is what it is. So listen, Microsoft's E3 is coming up. I don't know what they're gonna have at E3. They definitely need to have a big E3. We think that their next console will be shown probably next year. I think because right now it's 2018. If they're working, I'll be honest with you. If they're working on this platform now, if they haven't been working on it already, it probably won't come out to 2021. I think PS5 might come out in 2020, and the next Xbox will come out in 2021.
No way. They're not letting them have a year ahead. That's not happening.
I don't know, bro. I don't really think Microsoft cares at this point because you got the Xbox One X out. No matter what game you put out, still gonna run on the Xbox One X. If everybody is supposedly telling the truth about how power doesn't matter, only the games. If they produce some games, they look really good. The Xbox One X is still capable of running it.
But one will be on the market and the other isn't. So by default, only one will be purchased. You don't want that kind of lead to happen. That's one of the main reasons the 360 was able to overtake the PS3.
Yeah, that in price.
Yes, it was a perfect storm. It was a combination of things for sure, but it was a big thing. So
I don't know, man. I just feel like you're looking for an electrical engineer now. It's like it's like 2018, bro. You're building a console in like 2.5 years to releasing. Well,
you could just bringing on one engineer. That's not the entire engineering team.
It's not. I agree. I just think that I don't know, man. It just seems too short. It just seems real short to me. So I don't know. But I was going to say about their first party studios. They're supposed to have this guy Daryl Gallagher at E3, and if they have him at E3, I would assume that he's going to show whatever he's working on. That's the only thing I can think of. They're going to introduce him, introduce a new studio, and introduce the new IP. I don't think that is enough for E3 for them. They need something else. I don't know. This cart game that we've been hearing about is real. I don't know what they're going to show, be honest with you. But whatever they do show, I hope it impresses a lot of people. And I hope that they are getting their situation together. Because I think that the 3 franchises they have, as good as they are, over time you'll wind up oversaturating the market with those games, and people will get bored and lose interest unless you sort of kind of reboot what those games are. Kind of like God of War was just rebooted in a way, graphically, in the camera approach and the way they approached that game, which sort of brought new life to that franchise in a way. So if they're able to do that with something like the next Halo or they're able to do that with the next Gears game. I don't know what they're going to do, what they could change, how they can make improvements on that to capture a new fan base for those franchises. But they definitely need to have new franchises that are going to sort of not replace the ones that they have, but sort of go on rotation and be new franchises that you can lean on besides the old classics that you have already. So,
yeah, for sure.
Before we head out of here, do you guys have any things on your mind?
Well, no. I think we touched on what we needed to touch on and talked about what we needed to. I was very interested in hearing your perspective on things. I've never talked to you guys before, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for coming on without question. So listen, we're going to go ahead and end the show. We're going to try to do this Q&A real quick for the fans out there that came through to support. Want to thank the Ashen Luca for coming on. I'm very appreciative of her giving us some of her time. As always, listen, man, tickets like Wakanda. I keep saying this. It's hard for me to listen to people. I wear too many hats. I'm doing too many things at Tick to extend myself out to other groups. We are working on a new program, though, which we will be announcing next week. So if you are a part of a podcast team, we are working on a way to bring as many podcasts into our program as much as possible. And what that is going to allow some of you guys to do is actually become a part of our media team and experience what it's like to be media. So there's a lot to discuss when that happens. It's a big deal. I can't wait to announce it next week for all the people out there interested in the Tick affiliate program. So keep an eye out for that on Twitter. I'll announce that sometime next week. Iron Lords will be heading to E3 for us. We got guys heading over there right now, and we should have some of those guys also attending some of these events that we got coming up. We're just waiting for those to come through, as well as Sam, who will be reporting for us on TICGN.com, the #1 gaming news site you need to be checking out right now. Sam, you excited about E3?
Of course. Absolutely. I mean, simply due to the fact I get to go and hang out with my bros, get to meet up with a bunch of people I haven't talked to since, not talked to in person since last E3, actually. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Hearing a lot of cool stuff from a lot of different companies should be a really good time.
Absolutely. I'll definitely be trying to work out some stuff with my connects at Microsoft to get Sam a good interview with either Phil or Aaron, one of those guys, or maybe Mike. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out who I can hit up. But definitely want to get that set up for these guys out there and make sure that they have a good time now that they're attending E3 as media. I'm taking a break this year. I will not be attending E3. I'll be here doing a live show. We're actually going to be doing a joint show with Mike from NLG. So it'll be a Tick NLG special, and we'll be doing that show live, half on Twitch, half on our channel. And it'll be a group thing, which will be pretty awesome. I can't wait to see how we work that out. And that's that. So listen, make sure you tune in next week, Saturday at 10:30 p.m. for your next episode of the Inner Circle podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox. And also tell your friends about Tick Network. This channel is not just about Tick Podcast. We have a plethora of podcasts on this channel that supports a plethora of topics. We have Multiverse on Mondays with Anchorman V and that team. They cover comic books, movies, animes, all that stuff that happens out there, plus multi-plat games. We got 2XP with Fame Entertainment, Nicodemus X, Dallas Man, and Mamacita and crew. And those guys do PlayStation versus Xbox. We want to try to give you fanboys something to actually watch. And we also have the Iron Lord podcast. Those guys are just, they're hilarious.
Those guys are awesome.
They're awesome. You got to love those guys. Every Sunday, I believe, at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch them tomorrow. King, Lord, Addict, and Lord Cog. So make sure you tune in for that show tomorrow with, don't forget Lord Sav. Shout out to Lord Sav. And make sure you check out my channel, The Last Sun channel, which is on the Last Sun Network on YouTube. It's a new channel where I get a chance to talk about the things that I want to discuss, whether it's movies, anime, comics, Xbox, game streaming, stuff like that. So go ahead and support. If you're looking for that old Super Pod Shot content, you can catch it on the Last Sun Network. And that's going to be it for this show. So I'm going to go ahead and end it for the MP3 crowd. You'll be able to catch this show on iTunes, Google Play, all the good places where you can get MP3s. And we'll be back next week. We're going to do this Q&A. So if you have questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat. Put a question mark next to it, and we'll try to get those questions answered. I'm your host, Kerwa SKLL, the last son of Planet Xbox with the Ashen Luca. Once again, thank you for stopping out. And Direwolf 484, and we're out of here. We're off this planet. Peace.
Bye.
All right. So with that said and done, big shout out to everybody in the chat, man. I want to thank you guys for stopping out. Let's see here. My chat is rolling right now. Go ahead and leave your questions in the chat if you are ready, and we will definitely answer them. Big shout out to Chief Tommy. Thank you, Chief Tommy, for stopping out. Crytopsy, thank you for stopping out. Mr. Kima, Dizzy, MK28, Stinking Corpse. Shout out to Stinking Corpse. That name's out of control. Patman Jones, thank you, brother, for stopping out. iMill, thank you for stopping out as well.
I believe I also spied John from SDGC. Appreciate him coming out here.
Yes, I did see that. What's it again? SD?
The Super Deformed Games Cast.
Yes, the Super Deformed Games Cast. Thank you for stopping out. I saw that earlier today. Really, really appreciate it. Edge XL says, do you think the Elite Controller 2 will be announced at E3, and will it work with the next Xbox?
Yes, and it better.
Ash?
Well, yeah.
I think it's that simple. I think it's really that simple.
Of course it's gonna work with the Xbox. Especially since they're pushing this carry everything over, like that. Of course, come on, yeah.
Like, why would it not?
That's funny. Wills, what up, Wills? Thank you for stopping on, brother. Wills says, after seeing this week's great OGBC release, do you guys think Sega and Microsoft will ever work together again in the same capacity they had in the OG Xbox era?
Yeah, they already are. Sega owns Creative Assembly, and they made Halo Wars 2. Sega owns Relic Entertainment, and they're the ones working on Age of Empires 4. So they already are. They have a very solid relationship. Now, if they could just bring over Yakuza and Persona, then that'd be fantastic.
Right.
Persona.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things that I got to say, man, as much as we may not get those Japanese RPGs that I love so much, I got to say that Phil's done a solid job. I mean, we're getting Yeezus coming over, Valkyrie profiles coming over. We just recently got some of the anime, like Sword Art Online came over, at least the gun game came over. There's a lot of games that's crossing over. Code Vein. I never expected Code Vein to be on this platform. Like literally, it doesn't seem like it belongs on the Xbox at this point after all of these years. But I look back to the 360 era, which was one of my favorite consoles, top 5. And I gotta say, man, that Microsoft could do it. It's not like they don't have the money and they don't have the staff to communicate with the people out there and sort of turn things around and get rid of this bad image that they have. So I really do like the fact that they're making an effort to bring over some of these games. It's really impressive. Let's see here. He says, what does Halo 6 need to do to get the series back on track?
Have a good story.
Yeah, have a good story. Halo 4 and Halo Wars 2 had great stories, so I don't want to hear any excuses. 343 is capable of writing good stories. They've hired some new writers, actually, from some other big games, like the first couple of Arkham games, Arkham City and whatnot. So, yeah, just get the story on track, continue that tight gunplay, maybe make some tweaks here and there, bigger battles, stuff like that, longer campaign, that sort of thing.
I think what Halo needs to do is what they did with the first game. A good portion of the first game took place on the Halo ring itself. And a lot of the missions were just like in this giant landmass, like this huge landmass. You would just drive from one area to the next area to the next area. And every area you went to wasn't like it was a new level, like you traveled from Earth to a spaceship to another home world. It wasn't like that. It was like you went from one area of the Halo ring where everything was all grass and sunny and waterfalls, and then the next area of the Halo ring was all ice and snow. Like it was one of the dopest things about the first Halo. I think if they were able to capture the way that felt so open world, so much to explore, even if like you didn't know where you were going, you could travel to a certain area, kill a bunch of enemies, go inside that elevator and go down. You know, it was like really epic because you would sit there in that elevator on your way down saying to yourself, you don't know what's going to be on the other side of that dome when you come out. You know, there'd be cloaked elites and hunters in there. It was dope, man. It was really awesome. The first Halo, man. It's one of the best, I have to admit, when you think about it. Where are we at right now?
Chat was popping. Bound to be some big questions in there.
Yep. Patman Jones Effect asks, what do each of you think of Panzer Dragoon? Should Xbox go to Sega for a new game?
Yes. Certainly, it can't be worse than... Sorry, what was that, Luca?
I'm too young to know what that is.
Okay. Well, it's actually available right now on the digital store, so you can try it out there. But you know what Crimson Dragon was?
I'm too young to know what that is, sir.
That was in 2013, so okay, that might be a problem then. But yes, the point is yes.
That was 2 years after I graduated high school, and I wasn't gaming like that.
Fair enough. Completely fair. But yes, to answer the question, they absolutely should. It wouldn't be a full price title, but they can absolutely do a nice rail shooter like that. Even if they have to get Sega to do it, they have a close relationship with them.
I'll tell you this. I think Crimson Dragon, and same thing with Rise, were both Connect games. And they tried to turn them into real games, and they weren't designed to be those games. And I think that's where a lot of things get messed up. Crimson Dragon was not received well. It was supposed to be the spiritual successor to Panzer Dragoon Orta. I think if they went to Sega and they were able to get the people who did the original and do it right, and that same story, that same history of what Panzer Dragoon is with the same title, you might be able to get something special. But I don't even know if those people are still there at Sega. I think that's why they had Crimson Dragon, because Crimson Dragon is actually, I believe, some of the original team that did Panzer Dragoon Orta. So it would be great if they were able to get Panzer Dragoon, but you got to have the right developers on there to get the game and get what those games meant back then to feel like they would feel today. Because a lot of times what something may have been back then may not resonate with the people today. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's crazy.
It would make for a good budget title, though. It would.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to see if they continue to work with Microsoft in that way. I think that'd be really cool if they were able to do that. Big shout out to Chief Tommy, man. Really appreciate the donation. We don't get many of them for the but I'm very grateful for that. Chief Tommy asks, what will the score be for State of Decay 2? I'm guessing a 90 just for fun.
Guessing review scores is difficult, to say the absolute least. I think it depends on a lot of things. You know what? Okay, just for the fun of it, I'll throw a score out and say an 84. But I don't put a lot of weight in review scores. I don't. I'm just making that clear. But yeah, I'll just say an 84 for the fun of it. Either of you want it?
I think it'll be in the 80s.
Yeah, mid 80s even.
I think that it would be, listen, the first one scored amazingly well. But that was on the 360. A lot of games scored amazingly well on 360. Now those games don't score very well on the Xbox One X.
Did it though?
Yeah, it did.
I'm gonna fact check that one right now.
Yeah, check it out. I'm not saying it was like
got a 78. It got a 78.
Maybe it dropped from back then. I know back then it was up there. It was like 80 something. But Now, I don't know, man. I think that if it comes out based on what they're doing now, in most reviewers, the game was what, $29.99? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a $30 game. It's a budget title. I think for the price, it should be like around 88. I want to say 88, 87. I don't know because I think that it should be an improvement over everything that the first game was. And it was an amazing game to so many people. That's why it sold so well on both PC and the Xbox. But I think that adding the co-op experience to it should help it a little further along. The question is whether or not the gameplay is not buggy, which has been a problem for most games, and that there's really everybody can get in and play co-op without issue. I think if you're able to accomplish those two things, and people can have fun out the gate, you might have something special, and it could score pretty well. It's a dynamic game, so it doesn't really have a truly set-based story because the narrative is dynamic. It changes as you meet people, and the storyline changes as you meet people, which kind of makes it dope in itself. So we'll have to see, but I'm going to say 87. I'm going to go with 87 without question. Let me see here. What do you want to see from the Fable reboot?
A good story.
Yeah, a good story, a nice, mature RPG. You can still have some jokes. You can still have some humor, but overall, grand scope, mythical creatures, fantastic elements, memorable characters.
Insane graphics.
Yes, it needs to be a graphics showcase, which, I mean, given Playground games, that shouldn't be a problem. That should be required.
I'm going to record Luca's voice. That is my default answer from now on, a good story. That's going to be my default answer.
I mean, that's what we're all looking for.
I feel you. I definitely feel you. For me, I want a game that's mature. That's what I want. I want a game that is dark, mature, real Western RPG-ish. It doesn't have to be like, Fallout or Witcher. But I would love it would just take itself a little bit more seriously. That's all I want from the game. Something that takes itself a little bit more seriously, the enemies a little bit more seriously, a large variety of enemies. You can still get married, have kids, do crazy stuff like that when you're in town, in the city. You can have some comedy here and there, but I really want the game to be a little bit more mature. I want Sea of Thieves water everywhere. I want Sea of Thieves sky. Like the clouds, that dynamic clouds they got, best clouds I've ever seen in any game. Like those clouds to me are just amazing. The way those things are designed, the way they move and open up is just incredible. Just give me Sea of Thieves, water, and skybox for Fable. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy without question. Story would definitely be good though. Story's definitely number one. Let me see here. Wow, a lot of people showed up at the last couple minutes. A lot of questions in here. Well, not really questions. If I don't answer your questions because I didn't see a question mark, let's see here. Chris Topsy says the inner circle does the same mistake as Phil Spencer by thinking people asking questions like that are trolls, but rather consumers with money in their pocket looking for reasons to buy an Xbox. No, I'm not making that mistake. I'm not making that a mistake.
No, people have a right to ask questions. They have a right look, you're the consumer. Our hobby is not exactly cheap by any stretch of the imagination. That's what it is for a lot of us in terms of if you're not working in the industry or working in the media, it is a hobby. And so as a result of that, yes, you have every right to ask any question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with people asking questions. If you've listened to Tick long enough, I'm one of the first people to call Microsoft out about the things I didn't like. I didn't like that they put their games on PC. I literally told Phil it was a mistake, that I felt like Xbox lost its identity. They have no identity. I didn't like the fact that, a lot of the moves that they make, especially their PR, I feel like they just had poor PR. I called them out on it so much that they really just need to stop giving all of these people access. Like one of the problems Microsoft used to have a couple years ago was that you would have multiple people doing interviews answering the same questions and giving you multiple answers. And no one knew what the hell anybody was talking about. Like, it was all different answers to the same thing. At times, even Phil would answer a question, and then you would find out what really is what's being said. So, I mean, it's not that I don't call Microsoft out or that we just take what they give us. It's just a simple fact that there's a certain way you go about things. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have a complaint or you feel a certain way about Xbox, voice how you feel. That's the only way to get things done. You talk with your wallet. What I'm saying is don't force your opinions and how you feel on the people who enjoy that platform. You know what I'm saying? Because they may feel a certain way doesn't mean that you have to impose your will on that person. Impose your will on the company. Impose your will on Phil, the people at the coalition, Halo, whatever. Those are the people you need to talk to. I don't care about that. I'm not defending what anybody say or how they feel about Xbox. I'm just saying the people who are sitting up there enjoying the platform, having fun, communicating with other Xbox guys, why harass them? That's all I'm saying. Don't troll those guys. You know what I'm saying? Because your opinion doesn't matter to them. Because it's your opinion. So focus on the people you need to focus on and let the people who enjoy the platform be. And it's the same thing for Xbox people. If you're an Xbox fanboy or an Xbox zealot and like the only thing you can see is Xbox all the time, and you don't even want to look up to see something good, but you're going to trash it the minute that something comes up that you don't agree with because it's not on your platform or you feel some type of way about it because you have anger towards the other fanboys, like, don't do that, B. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're supposed to be grown-ups or we're teenagers or whatever it is, but you have to have a level of maturity where you're like, does that really matter to you unless you want to be a troll and you want your day to be that way? So that's all I'm saying. Like, you know, voice your opinion. I've never said you couldn't voice your opinion on you shouldn't be able to say these things to the executives. I'm just saying that be aware of who you're talking to, because you may feel one way doesn't mean somebody else feels that way. And then if they don't agree with you or you don't agree with them, and then it gets ugly, next thing you know, you're cursing each other out, arguing, talking about somebody's mother, just gets out of hand. So that's what I'm saying. All right. I think that's it. Yep, that's going to be it. So listen, man, I want to thank everybody for stopping out and hanging out tonight with the team. Definitely appreciate Luca once again for stopping out. Hopefully we can have her back on in the future. Hopefully she had a good time here.
Oh, for sure. And I got to get you on my channel, dude.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, you can catch the Inner Circle podcast, the premiere podcast for Xbox, next week, Saturday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget, we have our next Tick special coming up. We'll be interviewing I just can't believe I just lost this guy's name. I'm so sorry. Just give me half a second to pull it up. I am so bad with names. I literally need like a book that says old man on it so I can stay with Nick Lang. There we go. We're going to have Nick Lang on the show. We'll be chatting with him and picking his brain. Nick Lang is actually the executive producer of Forza Motorsport. So he'll be coming on the channel. We'll be chatting with him about not so much about Turn 10 on Xbox. We've been told that right now we're not allowed to talk with him about Turn 10 or Xbox because they are in the throes of E3 as well as a whole bunch of things that they don't want anything leaked. But we'll definitely get a chance to talk to him about game development, Forza, you know, what's it like working in the, you know, in the studio environment and things like that, and kind of pick his brain. That interview will go up, I believe, Friday at noon. And we have our interview with him on Thursday. So make sure you tune in on Friday here on the channel. We'll have that upload for you, and you can catch the actual written version of that on our website, ticgn.com. And that's it, man. That's going to be it for this week's show. I'm your host, Kerwa S. Kellel, with Diable 484 and the Ashen Luca. And we are out of here. We're off this planet. You guys have a great night. Peace.
Bye.